Welcome back, FloGrappling fans, to another episode of your favorite Jiu-Jitsu podcast, A Fistful of Collars. Joining me in the studio once again, we have Will Safford, Reed Connell, Chase Smith, and myself, Howell Teague, here to break down the best of the Jiu-Jitsu news from the last week. And another interesting week. I think the first thing we should do is we should jump straight into the biggest winners from last weekend, because we had a stacked event. Stacked weekend, 3 events in 2 days in Los Angeles. We were there on the ground. Man, let's begin. Grand Slam, King of Mats, Subversiv. Who were the biggest winners from the weekend?
For sure, Erberth Santos, looking like his old self again. He took first place, took gold at the Grand Slam, LA Grand Slam. Submitted his opponent in the final for that. I'm not sure how many submissions he had getting to the final match, but then the next day at the King of Mats also took first. I think he submitted 2 opponents, just looking dominant, willing to stand and do his whole judo thing and really going after people. So, Erberth is back.
On fire, absolutely, Erberth Santos. I think we got a little clip going right here that we can play. You can see some of the highlights from Erberth's time at the King of Mats here. But like Will said, man, dude was on fire. I think all the week leading up, we were asking ourselves, we were asking everybody, is Erberth Santos back?
That's the question we always ask, right? Every event we say, oh man, is Erberth back? He's back now? Oh no, he's not. Yeah, he's back again. Like, which Erberth was this we saw that last weekend?
I mean, he's obviously back, and he won both events, by the way. It's easy to conflate, King of Mats with the Grand Slam, but they're 2 very distinct, separate events. He had to do a round robin on Sunday versus like 9 of the other toughest dudes right now in the heavyweight division. So amazing to watch Erberth when he's on. Aggressive stand-up. He had several submissions in King of Mats. I think he had at least 2 or 3. Toe hold all day. Mm-hmm. So it's so fun to watch Erberth compete.
Erberth back to yanking on feet, yanking on heels and stuff like that.
I gotta say, that was a dirty pass to mount right there. And then that wrist lock, that's vintage Erberth right there.
Vintage Erberth Santos. Toe hold. This was one of the matchups right there I was looking forward to
Hudson
most at the entire weekend. Any event. Hudson Mateus versus Erberth Santos. Obviously Hudson is on a tear lately, and I thought that one was going to be a really great matchup. Ended up being Erberth kind of blew the doors off him with that toe hold. Man, I have to say, I totally agree. Erberth won the weekend for me. Guy was on fire. How much did he win? 10 grand?
10 grand.
10 grand at King of Mats.
10 grand.
And then 2,500 for the Grand Slam. That's not a bad weekend's work, right? $12,500.
Plus, he's now in the running right now for the UEJJF rankings, which is a $25,000 bonus to win that at the end of their season.
And because he won the King of Mats tournament, that also means he'll challenge Alexander Trans next year for the heavyweight title as well, because, of course, the winner of this tournament was the one who would then qualify, go ahead and compete for the title next year. So
right, because the original King of Mats last April, they had 3 divisions, light, middle, and heavy, and now they're going to have the champions from each of those divisions face the challengers, which is now Erberth Santos in the heavyweight.
Man, and Erberth Santos, I mean, we talk about this all the time, don't we? About how he's such this polarizing figure in Jiu-Jitsu. He's one of those guys, people love to hate him. But I did notice some comments from the fans and from the viewers that they were saying he looks different, right? Whereas back in the day, he used to mess you up and then laugh like immediately after. Nowadays, he taps guys out. He still messes them up, but he's like helping them up, and he's like giving them a hug, and he's saying to them, "Good job, good job." That's quite a turn in direction for that guy.
Maybe he's maturing a little bit. He founded his own team. He's coaching. That might affect some changes in him. I don't know, but he did look a bit less of a villain. Sometimes Erberth is like terrifying and scary. And this time he just was a badass competitor to me. Yeah,
still terrifying and scary, but to a slightly less degree. I do agree that he did look a little different. He looked a little bit more like he was, cared about his opponents.
He even said to me, actually, that he's had to figure a lot of stuff out this year. Like 2018 has been a transitional year for him. He left Atos because he was with Atos, right?
That's
and
right.
he formed his own team, and he had to go from becoming. He went from being just an athlete to suddenly having to figure out how to be a manager of a team. To like training other guys, to training himself without the supervision of a coach or the input of somebody. And for somebody who I think he's 23. years
yeah.
old.
Really?
Still a
Oh
young
yeah.
guy.
Oh, wow.
Still a young guy.
Yeah, a lot of miles on that clock right there. That guy's been around, right? He's been a high-level black belt since, 20 years of age. But a transitional stage in his career as much as anything. So I guess maybe some of those pieces starting to fall into place. Maybe we're now seeing the results of that.
Absolutely. I mean, it was not without his ups and downs. Last year, Erberth, didn't have a great year by his standards. So to see him back on top form is fantastic.
Yeah, of course, he missed Worlds this year as well. That was a crazy, we definitely missed him there. So it's good to see Erberth back, I think. Like you said, didn't have a great year, but it definitely looked like he was focused, he was ready, he was doing all the vintage Erberth stuff, like you said, the wrist locks, the toe holds, the judo
big
throws.
takedowns, yeah.
It was good to see Erberth back.
Hats off to
I have to agree.
hats off to Jackson Souza though, because he was the he made it to the final in the King of Mats, and he was the only guy who was able to take Erberth down. I think
He's the only person who scored on
scored
Erberth.
points,
Yeah.
which is what I don't understand. Like Erberth is so electric when he's on his feet. I don't understand why people even try to stand with him. Like
I mean, you've seen his passing too, right? You don't want to.
he's got really dynamic
Yeah.
passing. It seems
Hudson Mateus has one of the best close guards in the game, and he pulled guard on Erberth, and he couldn't do anything.
Got toe hold in less than a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
got submitted. So
Erberth's got this crazy standing footlock where he just
I know.
arches his back and can carry a guy around the mat. It's
he's tapped
insane.
guys with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He straight up just
Igor
lifts him
Silva,
up
I
off
think
the
he
ground.
Yeah, he
tapped
was,
with
he
it,
was
right?
dragging Igor Silva, a
Across the
fucking
mat.
giant man, across the mat with a footlock. Insane.
savage.
Well, I think this is the point, isn't it? When we reveal the special message that Erberth has for none other than Gordon Ryan, because Gordon Ryan, the king, they call him. Well, Erberth won the King of Mats last weekend. Let's cut to see what Erberth has to say.
Fala aí, Gordon, beleza? Erberth Santos aqui. Você é muito bom sem kimono, tudo bem, mas eu sou o brabo de kimono. Vamos lutar eu e você, tá bom? Eu vim até Los Angeles, luto de kimono com você, você vai até o Brasil e luta sem kimono comigo. Vamos? É nóis, tamo junto, monstro. Parabéns pelo trabalho.
A little bit of a challenge issue there. Spicy.
I mean, that's what we all want to see, right?
Do we want to set it up just a little bit more? Because it's not the first time those two have gone back and forth a little bit. I think they have a history with each other, right? I'm not sure who called out who.
It was right around a year ago this time, right? When that conversation was circulating about maybe a super fight going down, some challenges on Instagram being sent out.
So let's just recap real quick for those who maybe are listening to the audio and didn't get to see this live on the video. But Erberth basically says, come on, guys, let's do it, right? I'll come to LA, fight you in the gi, but you got to come to Brazil and you got to face me no gi, right? So they each got to go into each other's backyards. But he's flipping it, right? Because, of course, his wheelhouse is in the gi. He's not really known as a no-gi guy,
Yeah.
right? And Gordon's not known as a gi guy,
Yeah.
right? So that kind of... does that mess with things a little bit? Asking Gordon to go to Brazil for a match, and I don't know. It's a very interesting concept.
I love it. It's like I think Erberth's like, hey, you want to do the gi? Come on, let's do it. I'll do it anywhere. I'll do it here in America. I'll come to America. Let's do the gi. But you want to do no gi? You got to come to Brazil to do no gi. You got to come out to my hood, and then we'll do it there. So I think it's he's like, let's do the gi, and if you got the balls, you can come to
But then
Brazil.
because the way I see it playing out is Erberth dominating Gordon in the gi, and then Gordon dominating Erberth no gi.
You still hang on.
And
whoa,
so
whoa,
then-
whoa,
and then
let-
where
let
we
me
go
just-
from there? Go from there.
Then we have a
just roll
Sambo
this back a
final.
second.
That's how we do it.
You honestly think that Erberth would dominate Gordon Ryan in the gi? That's a strong word, dominate.
I've never seen Gordon in the gi, so I have
true.
no idea. But
and Erberth's the world champion.
he dominates everybody else. So I mean, he even 2017 he was throwing Buchecha to the ground. So if Gordon stands and tries to stand with him, then I do see him dominating Gordon.
Wow.
And we just saw on Gordon's social media. So I'm working with Bernardo Faria. Of course, Bernardo and Erberth have a history there as well.
That's
So-
true. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, this is why I'm not necessarily saying that Erberth can't beat him in the gi, right? Of course, but dominate is a strong word because we haven't seen Gordon compete in the gi, and it's a huge question mark. But you gotta think he's got access. I mean, he was training last weekend, like you said, with super heavyweight and absolute world champion Bernardo Faria. He was training with judo Olympic silver medalist Travis Stevens. He's training with all these high-level guys. We know he's been working out with Keenan. Keenan has a win over Erberth, right? So dominate Erberth? Or Erberth
I think it's
dominate
definitely,
Gordon?
it's very, very possible that Erberth could dominate him in the gi, just because we've never seen it. We've never seen Gordon. We don't know what he looks like. You know,
To flip the conversation too, I do think Gordon would do quite well against Erberth no gi. I don't think it's almost the same conversation.
If there's any
believe.
dominating to be done here, I will straight up say I don't think Erberth has a chance in hell against Gordon no gi. I really don't, and I don't think that's a controversial opinion because you guys are like,
I mean, it depends on the rule set, right? Well, if it's IBJJF, who knows?
no
if
gi,
it's
IBJJF no gi, yeah.
I still think he does quite fine. I mean, Gordon looked amazing at no-gi pans. Taking away the reaping and the heel hooks has shown not to be a major issue for Gordon.
That's why I think
Yeah.
the gi match is a little bit more exciting to kind of think about, a little bit more exciting, a little
Way more variables,
question
right?
marks, you know, in the
Especially-
gi
yeah.
match. And Gordon, man, one thing I know about Gordon, and one thing when I go there and talk to him, like, he wants to test himself. He wants to fight the best guys. He wants to do this gi stuff. He really does. I get that feeling from him. He wants to shut all his haters up. Every single one of them, you know. So this is a challenge I know Gordon wouldn't back down from.
We mentioned it quickly there as well about Erberth looking like something of a changed man at the tournament last weekend, about how his being a lot more respectful, a lot more professional in his conduct. But also, the message was clear. He's certainly not backing down from a confrontation with Gordon. But at the same time, he was quite respectful in the words that he used in calling out Gordon. Would we say?
He was, yeah. He was a little more expected than I anticipated he would be, right? Just I didn't know what to expect, you know, but he wanted to say something to Gordon, and he that's what he had to say. So I mean,
yeah, I mean, at the end, he even calls him like a champion. You know, congrats on all the success and stuff like that. And I think Gordon has earned that. He's earned the respect of the highest level guys, you know, in the game. When he was coming up through the ranks, you know, everyone was still questioning Gordon, but he's done it over and over again, you know, proven at the top level that he can hang and beat the best guys. So maybe I am underestimating him here and what he can do in the gi.
Well, I definitely think that you're right. The rules are going to be a huge factor, but you know, just considering things like the location, considering things like the travel and stuff, I don't think Gordon's ever even been to Brazil, right? Erberth's a seasoned professional athlete traveling the world, competing in everywhere, Abu Dhabi, Japan, you name it. He's been there. So
True.
I'd love to see what kind of factor that would play into things as well. But
I love that these guys are going back and forth a little bit. I love that, you know, after winning 10 grand, after, you know, beating Jackson Souza, Hudson Mateus, you know, some of the best guys in the sport, the king of mats, you know, he wins the whole thing, gets the trophy, and then who does he call out? Gordon Ryan. You know, I think that.
He's hungry.
Yeah.
He's not done
But
yet.
didn't-
He knows.
Didn't Erberth say that his next event is going to be a no-gi event that he's going to do down in Brazil?
he said that he is on the fence, but yeah, we could see him in action at the Brazilian no-gi nationals in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Have we ever seen Erberth no-gi?
Oh man, I mean, yes,
He
but
did a couple
it's been
super
a
fights, I
while.
want to say. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's super fight. I think it's just actually. No, he competed last year in ACB. But we've seen him in like a straight up open tournament. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Because he's
Maybe
so
LA Grand Slam like 2 years ago. I remember he did.
That's right. He did
Yeah.
do no-gi back then when they had no-gi still.
Yeah.
his stand-up game is so reliant on that snap down, the collar snap down. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do, you know, without the collar. If he can actually wrestle, if he can still take guys down without the gi.
And we've seen Gordon train a lot of no-gi a lot of judo lately. Like you said with Travis Stevens, he's always working with Gary St. Leger in the room, so he's getting his judo prepared too.
He is. So, I mean, I thought it was interesting as well when shortly after Erberth won, Gordon was watching. He's paying attention because what did he post on his Instagram? He said that
He was not impressed.
he was not impressed, but he also said, man, if you win by like a referee's decision and then you tear your gi open and you're screaming and stuff afterwards, he said, man, I would kill myself if I don't beat the guy by submission. It's like typical Gordon hyperbole, right? But
they both fought Max Jimenez, right?
It's true.
2 weekends before at Nogi Pans, Gordon fought him twice, and then this last weekend, Erberth fought him in the Grand Slam in the finals.
day.
In the
Final,
finals,
yeah.
yeah. And so they both have a similar opponent there.
I don't know if Gordon
Jimenez.
knows how electric Erberth is when he's out on the mat. Like I don't think that Erberth can contain himself. Like after he's done, he just has so much like energy. He's ready to explode. That once the match is over, he won. He's just has to let it out.
Like Gordon has faced the best of the best. Yeah, he's been up against some absolutely world-class guys. But has he ever faced down somebody as intense, as motivated, as straight-up dangerous as Erberth can be?
I think so.
Cyborg's pretty intense.
He won gold at ADCC and placed second in absolute. I think that's as intense as you can basically get. Erberth might be a little bit on the unpredictable side of things, you could say, but I think Gordon won't be phased. But it does, I think, highlight a contrast between two kinds of competitors, right? We've talked about this a bit in the past, but some guys are calm. They want to just replicate what they do in the gym every day and not be shaken or excited by competition. And then there's Erberth, who's just like a live wire, it's just insane. So
I do think that it would be a brand new experience for him if he did go down to Brazil and compete against Erberth. Where does Erberth live? Where's he
Sao
from?
Paulo.
Sao Paulo. So maybe Sao Paulo. I think that would be a very hostile environment probably, and so I think that would be a new experience, definitely. That I'm not sure how he would handle that. But.
Being great embedded series, go to Gordon to Brazil.
True.
And I just want to remind people,
that out
go to FloGrappling.com to check out the full message there from Erberth Santos, calling out Gordon Ryan in no uncertain terms whatsoever. And wow, that is a match that we definitely want to see happen. So fingers crossed we see it soon. But moving on, to just recap some of the other biggest winners from last weekend. Abu Dhabi Grand Slam, King of Mats, and Subversiv all taking place in the same weekend. Moving sideways slightly, from we're talking about Grand Slam, King of Mats, let's quickly touch on Subversiv. I feel that personally that one of the biggest winners from the weekend, 10th Planet. Right,
100%.
We saw them go into the team challenge. 4 teams, each fielding 5 athletes, and 10th Planet, the overall winners. Who wants to dive into that one?
Man, I think before we even start, I think Subversiv itself was a win. The team format was super entertaining. The crowd was so engaged. Each team had a bunch of fans in the crowd, and you could just feel the electricity in the air, and people were pumped to watch their guys throw down for team glory. So
let's be real quick a second. Sorry to cut in there, Chase, but we should really make a point of mentioning that for all intents and purposes, this is a fight to win event, just in partnership with Subversiv. So the look, the feel, the production, everything was the quality that we know comes from the Fight to Win series of events. But they flipped the script a little bit and they offered something different this time, right?
Yeah, me and Chase were out there. You can check out the vlog to see some of the highlights that we were there for. But man, so good to be there. I know it's been a couple Fight to Wins since I've been to one, so it was really nice to go back there and see what Seth and those guys are doing. Like, the show is just so much fun. The lights.
Yeah, it is the biggest party in
everything.
grappling for sure.
It truly is. It's such a fun show. And like I said, it's been a little while since I've been there, so it was nice to be reminded of how fun those shows can be, man.
But really, it came down to 2 teams. It came down to 10th Planet and TLI, and tensions were high, you could say, and it came down to the very last match as well. So TLI, they lost their 145 competitor before the event even began. So they entered forfeiting 1 match each round they did, and they beat CSW 4-0, and then had, unfortunately, in the final, that left Gio Martinez without an opponent from 10th Planet. So they were already down, and they had to win every single match to get gold. And it came down to Liz Carmouche and Nyjah Rollins. And so it was just insane to watch that final go down. And Liz Carmouche hit this amazing darce at the end of the match, and the whole 10th Planet team exploded and went crazy, celebrated right there on the mat. So it was a lot of fun.
I think you just said it right there. The whole team dynamic, when people go into a jiu-jitsu competition, you're out there and you're fighting for yourself, but you're also fighting for your team, the guys that you sweat with and you bleed with on the mat. But this one, it was like the team got rewarded. It was a team thing, and everyone's match counted towards something.
They got paid as well,
and they got paid
$10,000 for the winning team. Right?
So after Carmouche won that match, you saw all the 10th Planet guys rush the stage. It was just so much energy. Everyone was so happy to be together representing the same flag. So it was a really cool concept, at least.
We don't do that too often in jiu-jitsu for some reason, do the team events, but like you said, man, it makes so much sense. Like, the jiu-jitsu teams are so tribal, jiu-jitsu teams are so tight-knit, these guys go to bat for their teams. Like, I'm sure out there everybody loves to rep their team, rep their patch or something like that. So it just makes a lot of sense to do more of these team team events and things. And
I mean, technically, every jiu-jitsu event is a team event, right? Because you go to any tournament and you've always got the big squads all cheering each other on and stuff. But it's individual matches, you know? I love the team format when it's actually you pick 5 of your best guys to go
it's
up
like a wrestling
against.
dual meet, right?
Exactly.
It's like, it really is. It narrows it down. Team versus team. There's no other people in the bracket or anything like that. It's just one team versus another team.
And you said it really well because you mentioned that these weren't the B teams either, right?
True,
No,
yeah.
Best guys from the team.
Yeah, best guys from Team Lloyd Irvin, best guys from Carlson Gracie, best guys from
CSW.
You know, all of them brought their A team. You know, DJ Jackson, Tim Spriggs, of course, Gio Martinez, Richie Martinez, PJ Barch. PJ Barch is a guy who I'm really high on these days. That guy, I love his game. He's like the wrestler, but he also has the heel hooks and has the
10th planet tricks.
has the 10th planet stuff.
He's definitely on the come up.
But yeah, I like that PJ Barch. I'm really high on him lately.
There is definitely a little bit of extra fuel to the fire too. Kyle Bone from 10th Planet called out Tim Spriggs pretty aggressively on Instagram before the match. Said he runs from all his fights, that he doesn't attempt any subs, that he's I believe he said bitch boy at one point.
Dang. Bleep that out.
Can we say that
Yeah,
on the podcast?
I don't know if
Can we say
that,
that?
I offended anyone with that. But so people were a bit disgruntled maybe with the way Tim approached that match. Tim sort of wrecked shop. Did the train wreck system that he calls it, I guess, on him, and was smothering him using the muffler choke that Wagner Hosha popularized just a few weeks back. And it was definitely an entertaining match to watch, but I didn't even know that going in. It came out afterwards that there had been a little bit of shit talk. So
It explained what happened on the mat then, right? Because they were facing off right before the mat began. They were just like staring daggers at each other right there at the middle of the mat before the match actually started. And it was a little bit more intense than we usually see when these guys, which is, you know, guys just jump on the mat, shake hands, and boom, they go, right? But there was something going on between those two. And if there were any doubts, well, I mean, it was very clear that there was something up during the match because Spriggs just smothered the life out of Kyle Bone, right? He pretty
Literally.
much took his soul. He passed his guard a bunch of times, and he was doing shades of Wagner Hocha, just hands all over his face.
it looked
and
terrible.
Yeah,
It looked
looked not like a lot of fun.
I don't think Tim Spriggs needs any more motivation to go out there and rip your head off.
I know.
Like that guy comes into every match fired up. I remember you did a clip at ADCC when he was warming up, and he's just like, man, he's over to the side, he's with DJ, and they're just like slapping each other and getting crazy. Yeah, so well, you see what happens when he does have motivation.
That's not on my list.
It seems like, man, Tim does have beefs with a couple other guys in
One or
jiu-jitsu.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah, one
I
or
know
two.
he had an intense match there with Gutenberg at Worlds, and so it seems like these things kind of follow him around a little bit. But
That's his style, though. He likes to get in the head of his opponents too, right?
I think a lot of guys go after him too. Maybe he's like a easy target for some reason for,
They
for these
do,
guys.
yeah. He's got this persona, I think, that people don't like. It definitely grates against them. But he's also equally happy to play the psychological warfare, to really mess with people and stuff. You know, we've seen it happen again and again. But you want to go head to head with that guy at that game, you got to be prepared for some serious pushback because that's what he loves,
especially on the mat there. So
right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was working that like Nogi Ezekiel choke where it was just basically like
On his
ramming,
face.
ramming that fist into the throat like that. That was a brutal one.
Ouch.
But yeah, ended up winning in overtime. The match did end up going to overtime, went through 3 overtimes. The overtime for Subversiv was slightly different because I think it had a 2-minute time cap.
Exactly.
2-minute time cap, so it was slightly different than the actual EBI rules. But Tim ended up riding out and escaping Kyle's back control, and then he ended up winning the match. So
Very cool.
end of the day, though, 10th Planet took the win.
True,
And definitely proved, that they really have something special going there. So.
yeah, absolutely.
So, any other big winners from the weekend? Grand Slam, King of Mats, or Subversiv? Who else stands out for you guys?
You had
For
somebody.
me, yeah, Gabi Pessanha. She so this was her first competition. No, she fought in Tokyo as a brown belt, but she's a fairly new brown belt. She's young. I think she's 18 years old. And she, in the earlier ranks, she was just dominating everybody. I think she was a Grand Slam winner last year.
Double Grand Slam winner. And then she probably had her toughest challenge last weekend at the Grand Slam, and she met up with Nathiely
So Nathiely de Jesus, of course, 2-time black belt, IBJJF world champion, 2-time world pro champion, 2-time LA Grand Slam champion, all at black belt. And Gabi, brand new brown belt, going up against Nathiely in the qualifier rounds, I believe. It wasn't even the semi-final, right? So.
And she also, I believe, best 2 years in a row, she was in the absolute finals. So she got silver medalist in the
Nathiely.
Nathiely,
Yes.
Sorry, sorry.
So one of the highest level, female black belts in the game, and Gabi, brand new brown belt. What happened?
So I think they went sweep for sweep, right? So it was 2-2, but then there was another
Very end, yeah.
There was a controversial, was it another sweep?
Takedown.
Takedown. There's a
Foot
controversial takedown, right? So Nathiely was trying to pull guard, and she clipped her with the foot to get the 2 there, and ended up winning the match 4-2, and upsetting Nathiely and going on to win. She won the whole thing. So
that's a pretty big deal, right? A brand new 18-year-old brown belt, literally just got promoted at the World Championships back in June, taking it to and beating the reigning IBJJF world champion, 2-time black belt world champion. That's huge.
Huge win.
I want to go on record here and say that she is the new black belt hunter. So Rodolfo Vieira did this in 2009 or 10 at World Pro. When he was a brown belt, he beat Braulio Stima in the final, who at that time was also a 2-time black belt world champion. And of course, Rodolfo went on to have a very illustrious career in ADCC and grappling, and moved on to MMA. Gabi Pessanha is right there as well. Brand new brown belt, taking out the most elite of women's black belts. We can really only predict big things, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we already, marked her out as a talent to watch. Yeah, she's already one of those athletes we see a lot of promise, but to deal with a test that tough so early in her career and pass, let's be honest. Regardless of how it happened, a win is a win, right? They took a hard look at that instant replay as well, because at UAE-JJF they call it the Falcon's Eye. They have the
awesome.
replay.
Didn't
they
know
have
that.
this big flat screen TV.
I like it.
Yeah, big flat screen TV right next to the mat. And at the end of the match, there was a little bit of doubt over that final call. So all 3 referees go over, they replay it, point stand. So can't take that away from her. A win is a win, right? But I mean, for me, it opens up the huge question of where do you go from there, right? She's going to have to obviously put in her time as a brown belt. She needs to stay 1 year. So she's going to go and compete at Worlds next year as a brown belt. But man, you have to think she could potentially be one of the youngest black belt world champions that we could see, right?
Absolutely. What's amazing to me too is that she trains down in a favela, right, in Brazil. Like, who is she training with? Who are her partners? Who is she getting these reps in with? Now, she's a well-built young lady, so I'm sure she's got some male training partners that she's getting the reps in with. But I don't know. I don't see how she can rise to this level, beat a black belt world champion already. She's 18 years old and she's training in a relatively small school down in Brazil.
Just goes to show that sometimes special people emerge from just the most unexpected of circumstances or situations, right? She comes from a good team in fight. They're not a small team. They have an international presence. But you're right. It is a small gym. It's in a favela. Her coach, Marcio Gideas, he's a well-known figure on the scene, the local Rio scene, and he's a referee that we see a lot as well. But she's by far the biggest name to come out of that team. We've heard rumors that that other teams have approached her and asked if they she would like to join the bigger squads, but she seems pretty content to stay with those guys.
Something's working clearly. So
well, of course we talked a lot about that last week, switching teams or guys getting poached from other teams and stuff. And it sounds like you said that people have already approached Gabi. Do you think that she'll probably stay? Do we have any other insight? I mean,
I think as long as she's winning, I think it makes sense to stay.
Yeah,
but
she seems pretty content to stay.
That's a lot of points, right? A brown belt who's potentially on the verge of black belt and has been winning everything at purple belt and now brown belt. So that's potentially, Gabi could potentially bring in 2 gold medals at a place like a world championship. So that's a lot of points.
She does seem pretty content to stay, and I think there is a
points,
certain
right? Team
loyalty, a team loyalty there that is stronger than simply, oh, it's part of the team. Because I don't know if you guys remember at the last World Championships when Gabi was in the purple belt finals, and they have that huge squad, and they're all singing the songs, favela, you know.
True, they do seem
And
pretty,
they had the
pretty
flag
tight.
there.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Gabi Pessanha had to tell them to calm it down. Calm it down a little bit, guys.
stop climbing over the barrier. Get back. Get back. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite photos from the event. Is that I had the whole crowd going crazy with the flags and singing, and she's on the mat covering her face.
Has she ever fought Elizabeth Clay? Probably not, right?
No, I don't think they've ever crossed paths because Liz is a fairly new purple belt, and Gabi got bumped up to brown.
That would be a great
around the
match,
same
though.
time.
That's true.
Well,
That
is
would
it
be
too
good.
soon to ask for Gabi versus Gianni?
Oh,
Well, think
yeah.
about it,
A little,
because
a
a little
little
too
we're a little
soon,
way off. Yeah,
But
yeah.
in
not too
absolute,
far.
it's always Nathiely and Gianni in the final, right?
True.
And it's
And for a long time, Gianni was the brown belt, beating black belts too.
Well, you know, Gianni and Gabi actually share a lot in common as well. They're from the same neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro. And Gianni did start off with a relatively small team as well. And I think that when she was a blue belt, she went and joined Alliance, of course, one of the biggest teams in Jiu-Jitsu. And rose to incredible things in her career, you know, but she joined them as a relatively lower belt, right? I mean, Gabi is already established on scene as a brown belt. But, you know, they're both heavier weight fighters. There is a good chance that eventually when Gabi gets her black belt, we could see them squaring off. It's crazy to think, isn't it? The two girls from a relatively small, you know, impoverished neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro could end up fighting for world titles in the pyramid in Los
awesome.
Angeles.
That's
you know?
the
Two
dream,
of
right?
the best in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible story.
I just say the women's division though is getting exciting. This is so. Who else do we see this weekend?
Gabby McComb had a huge win over Bianca Basilio. So Gabby McComb,
New black belt.
new black belt, was promoted by Leticia Ribeiro this summer at some point. And she didn't have a great performance at Worlds. She's a little bit injured. So to move up and to beat one of the very best women's black belts is pretty impressive performance for her.
We also saw Tamara Silva from Cicero Costa
She's
win
good.
the 70 kilo division, beating Samantha Cook in the final. Tamara's a brown belt as well. We should make that clear.
Yep.
So yeah,
She was-
Tamara
we
actually
saw a couple.
she beat Raquel Kanuto on the way through to the final.
Yeah,
as well.
she did. Raquel kind of got hurt. She
Yeah,
hurt her
maybe
shoulder a
she
little
was
bit,
kind of
on-
injury default.
but she did get to the final and then beat Sam Cook in the final. Also, Maisa Bastos was just on another level.
No one can touch her, it seems.
Right, I think she is just head and shoulders above the rest. It's kind of tough to see anybody beating her, especially at that weight class, right? Because she's like roosterweight, stroke light featherweight. Aren't that many girls out there, I think, who've got an answer for Maisa. So.
Yeah, 49 kilograms is a little bit of a small division.
But I do
Yeah.
agree. I mean, a lot of new blood in the female black belt divisions. Those divisions are really starting to fill out with a lot of the additions of these new brown belt girls who are just getting promoted and stuff. So
I got one more guy. I got one more guy that I want to bring up from last weekend. All right. Okay.
No, we're moving on.
I got
Topic's
one
tabled.
more guy.
It's over.
Let's give him his due because this guy, he's been putting in the work for years and years and years, and he finally did it. Finally broke that barrier. Man, Gianni Grippo finally got that win
American.
he's been searching for all this time against his rival Paulo Miyao. In all this time that they've been black belts, Paulo has always won against Gianni. And man, it was close.
It was very
It was
close.
close.
It's always
but
close.
Gianni pulled it off this time.
It's always
right?
close. Last time at World Pro this year in 2018, I think it came down to a sweep or an advantage, or it might have even been a ref's decision, but it's always right down to the wire. A lot of Gianni's matches are like that, so it was really nice to see him get the nod and then take home the victory and the cash.
I was so impressed with his composure in the beginning of that match. He was in some deep waters. Paulo had almost taken his back with a nice, just beautiful sequence there, and Gianni managed to get his shoulders to the mat and not just recover, but get on top. And it was like, oh my God.
There was that moment when Paulo was like almost on it, and I really thought, oh, shit.
I think he might have had one hook in. I mean,
He
it was
did.
yeah,
It was
close.
super close.
And when Paulo's that close to taking the back,
Yeah.
you know,
not
it's
that
like-
many people shut that down,
Yeah,
right?
for real.
So,
But I do want to just give some shout out to Gianni, man, because that dude's had a busy couple weeks, right? You know, and it just goes to show one of the reasons why I like Gianni Grippo so much. Dude fought submission only, 15-minute no time limit match against John Calistine, then switches gears to no-gi pans and ends up winning no-gi pans. Looked great. IBJJF no-gi pans, that is, and then came out here in the gi to do the LA Grand Slam. So 3 wildly different rule sets, wildly different competitions over the course of 4 or 5 weeks, I believe. And man, that dude
He's always
doesn't
game.
care.
He's
Yeah.
always game.
Whatever rule set, he's down for it. So I appreciate that.
and he'll be competing under another rule set very soon because he's in for Kasai Pro 445-pound tournament.
Man, doesn't
No-gi
stop.
round robin event, one of our favorites on the calendar.
As
so.
is Paulo. So there's a
That's true.
chance.
Rematch.
A chance we could see a very quick rematch for that, right? A different format because they fought under 6-minute rules both at World Pro and here at the Grand Slam last weekend as well, right?
And like you said, it's the first time Johnny's beaten Paulo. Do we know how many times Paulo's beaten Johnny? Because I think it's a handful of times at least. I believe.
It's a few. Yeah.
So Paulo's always seemed to have Johnny's number. We'll see if the tables turn permanently.
So Kasai Pro 4 coming up very soon, November 10th in New York. And I think it's important to note that they're starting to release the names for this show right now. Obviously, a show that we're very excited about because the last couple have been stellar
So much
events.
fun.
Yeah, so much fun. But man, they've already been putting out some really cool names. First off, the super fight, Edwin Najmi versus Hamato Kanuto. We can expect to see that go down
Fireworks.
at Kasai Pro.
That
That's
one's gonna be
crazy.
crazy.
I'm so excited for this match. Hanato Kanuto is definitely top 2 most exciting jiu-jitsu athletes on the planet. The dude is unpredictable. He's like a cat. He's jumping all over the place. But I think maybe the more elusive athlete would be Edwin Najmi in this case, where he's always so relaxed, so chill, and then he just finishes fights out of nowhere.
Yeah,
So,
he does.
I
Man,
cannot wait.
Edwin was there for the Grand Slam and King of Mats because he was supporting his teammate Gabriel Arges, right, who fought in King of Mats. And he came away from that tournament and he wasn't complimentary about some people's performances. He felt that some guys were just trying to, pick up wins without really going out there to fight. And his exact words were, there are 2 types of fighters in jiu-jitsu.
This is Edwin Najmi.
This is Edwin. There are 2 types of fighters in jiu-jitsu. One who tries to beat the opponent, and one who tries to beat the system. Now, I gotta say, Hanato and Edwin, definitely both people who try to beat their opponents, right?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think those 2 guys, they've had similar trajectories, right? And they have similar styles. I think a lot of people talk about them as having similar games. Of course, both guys are known for flying submission. Hanato for the flying armbar, and Edwin for the flying triangle. So both guys are always trying to finish the fight, whether they're standing or whether they're on the ground. So I don't really see them too often trying to play the points game, try to play the advantage game. Both guys have success in the IBJJF tournament scene. So, but like I said, most of the time they're trying to submit their guys, and so they definitely don't try to beat the system usually.
If there's just an early analysis of this, I think if there's any one area that one has an edge over the other, I think Hanato has the edge in the stand-up, right? Because we've seen him shoot takedowns, we've seen him some big, huge throws, but they're both really good at flying attacks as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we never really see Edwin
Edwin's
wrestle
so
too much,
good
right?
though at the darts off a shot.
Yeah,
He's so good.
Guys wrestle
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
and he taps him with the
He
darts.
hopes they shoot sometimes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am curious how the no-gi element. I feel like Edwin's more of a gi player, and Hanato has shown to be an excellent no-gi athlete as well as a gi athlete. So
Nogi world champion.
But Edwin has a submission win, no less, over 2015 ADCC champion Davi Ramos.
That's right, he does.
Took
yep.
his back and choked him.
that's why this match is so fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I think Edwin's comment about being a like fighting the system or fighting the opponent is almost the same thing as like what Buchecha is saying with Nutella, right? And almost same thing as Hamilo's with this whole Pahada thing. Just go out there and fight. It's really interesting because we're seeing the athletes now who are tired of these kind of points players or guys who are, really trying to win based on strategy as opposed to like gaming the system as opposed to actually going out in there and fight. Whereas it was formerly more so like the spectators, like, oh, we don't want to see this, right? But now it's like it's in the group of athletes. They're tired of this, people who are going out there and trying to just win gold medals without actually really going hard and facing each other. So
It's kind of cool, though, that change is coming from within, right?
oh, totally, yeah. I think Edwin's a perfect guy because he's, you know, explosive and dynamic. But when I was thinking about it, it's kind of interesting because anytime you have rules, you're going to have people who try to exploit the rules. You're going to have people
Any
who try.
sport, right?
I was
Yeah.
thinking about it yesterday, like baseball. Like you are allowed to walk a batter. You're allowed to throw 4 straight balls, intentionally walk someone to, so you don't have to pitch to him if he's a really good hitter or to, you know, whatever you want to do, whatever the situation is. Same thing with the guy in the end zone, catches a football in the end zone. He can take a knee. He doesn't have to run it out, although we'd love to see him run it out and get decked, right? But it's kind of the same thing as going on in jiu-jitsu where these guys are like, you know, they're gaming the system to win, and if there's money on the line, you got to think like you got to be smart too. You know, you got to go out and fight your opponent, but you also have to play the rules.
I'm with you on this. I was thinking about the same idea, but at the same time, I think there is diminishing returns. You might win a match in horrible fashion where it's really boring. You're not going to get booked again. So guys are incentivized, I think, to be entertaining and win. But, you know, there are some athletes out there that lose quite a bit, but they keep getting booked again and again because they're exciting. And that's, I think...
Can you think of anybody?
I'm not going to name
Anybody's
any names
free
here.
mind?
I won't name any names. But I
What
think
about
it's-
this? What if you go out there, you say you have a couple of easy fights in your first couple of rounds, right? You go out there and you go hard, you go after the opponent, but then in the final, you play the rules for the money. You know, it's like... It's just this thing that's going to always happen. As long as there's rules, as long as there's set, defined rules, you're going to have people who try to work them.
That's human nature, right? Human nature. So this is why we love to see those guys who come to fight. It's the big thing. And Kasai Pro, check on FloGrappling. We've got a bunch of news about people signing up or people being announced for that event. John Calstein is in. Bruno Frazzato is in. We mentioned Gianni and Paulo Miyao. More big names to come. Keep an eye out for that next week. And speaking of upcoming events, we got a couple more on FloGrappling next week. We've got Rise Invitational this weekend, actually, which is another New York submission grappling event. Big main event, Munchie Manshakira up against Jason Rao. And then in the co-main, you got Mateus Lutz versus Nick Ronan. A couple of good matches right there. What do we think?
Man, so pumped to see Munchie back grappling. He, I don't think he's been competing since last Kasai, or the inaugural Kasai last December.
Right. Yeah, just been training MMA.
At Team Alpha Male over there in Northern California. So he's back on the East Coast, ready to take on Jason Rao, who's been working really hard to make himself a household name, you know, a competitive grappler out of Danaher's basement there. So looking forward to that matchup quite a bit.
Rao is one of the guys who I think impressed me the most at Kasai 3. I mentioned
Agreed.
PJ Barch earlier as well. But Rao I thought looked fantastic, especially his submission win over Victor Silverio there, the heel hook that he got to Jason. I think, and Craig, even talking to Craig beforehand, Craig, you know, said that he thought that Jason was his toughest training partner, you know, and that's something that's pretty high praise coming from such a stacked room there at Danaher's. So I'm really, really excited to see Jason Rao excel.
Mateus Lutz versus Nick Ronan is another great match as well. Mateus Lutz, we saw him in action at Kasai.
Took third place.
Which
Beat
is
Jason Rao
no
in the
mean
third place
feat.
match, yeah.
And he won the absolute no-gi pans very recently as well. So, you know, being a middleweight, that's a pretty big deal.
He's tough. He's got a really well-rounded game too. You know, he's got good wrestling. He's a good top player. I think we saw a little bit of his guard too. He's got one of those guards where he likes to come up from the bottom and wrestle. He's just tough as nails. You know, he's training with those tough room with Marcelo Garcia. So I'm looking forward to seeing him the most.
Man, I gotta say, Mateus didn't have it easy at no-gi pants. He actually fought a couple of really big dudes in the absolute. And there was at one point I remember like some guy had his back and he was like cranking on his neck, and I was like, oh man, like, I didn't expect that. The guy was huge, but Mateus just such a pro, you know, got out. I'm sure he's been there 1,000 times before, got out, flipped it, and managed to win each time. So he's a guy who's really coming into his game, I feel, right? You know, we've seen him through the colored belts, but now he can't be far off black belt, right?
He's beaten Jason Rao twice now. He beat him at the Kasai Qualifiers to win the spot for the tournament, and then Jason got a spot as well, and they fought him in was it third place they fought?
Third place.
Yeah, so they fought for third place. He beat him for third place. So I think Nick Ronan going to be trying to get one back for Danaher Death Squad.
Very cool, very cool. And fight to win this weekend as well. We got Ana Carolina Vieira up against Chelsea Lyons for the 155-pound no-gi title, I believe.
That's right.
And we also got a couple of great super fights on there. Formiga, that's Rafael Barbosa up against Luis Denchino. That's an interesting match, right? Because you got two Brazilians based in Texas, one in Dallas, one in Houston. Really intriguing match. Also got Igor Paiva versus Will Durkee. Some really, really solid black belts on this card. A couple of really interesting colored belts coming through. I believe Samuel Nagai is on there. He's a brown belt now. We saw him at Worlds as a purple belt world champion.
Yeah, that might be my most anticipated match. He's a guy who ran through one of the most stacked purple belt brackets, beating Jonathan Alves, the AOJ murderer, in the final in a great match. So I want to see where he's at now. It's been a few months. I don't think he's been competing since he got his brown belt. So I
can't wait to see Baby. I was actually at the Miami event when she won the 145 black belt no-gi title, and she didn't realize that if you win that, you also win an actual belt. And when they brought her the belt, she just lost it. Oh my gosh, that's mine! So she gets another one this weekend. I'm excited.
The champ, 2 belts.
Dallas is cool, man. Dallas shows up usually for the for Fight to Win. We've been to that one a couple times.
Oh, yeah, it's a fun show.
And Dallas is a fun one.
Nice. Well, lots of events to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing our best to cover those and to make sure that we're on top of that, giving you guys all the news. A couple of other interesting events later in October to keep an eye on. We've got World Series of Grappling on October 7th, and then we got the Kasai Pro 4 qualifiers are on October 13th. Now, important to mention as well that registration is open for both those events. So if you're watching this and you want to get a shot at 20 grand for the winner of the World Series of Grappling, brown and black belt combined division, or you want to fight your way onto the Kasai Pro 445-pound tournament, then both of those both of those events will be live on Flow, and information on our site.
You're forgetting one important event. I'll be in Romania for ADCC European Trials.
How could I forget?
Yeah, I don't know.
With
You're
Vlad.
going to miss me. October 6th.
Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild weekend. I'll be there for a few days. So if you're in Bucharest, come find me because I'm going to need some help out there, I think, getting around. But it's going to be
Nobody's
exciting.
Watching.
First
from
ADCC
Bucharest. Nobody's watching.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
Well, hey, any European grapplers who might be heading over to the European trials, let us know, man, because need as many friendly faces as we can get, right?
I also wanted to update. While I was at Subversiv, I was able to uncover the Carlson Gracie secret handshake. I just wanted to update everybody on that. They have a handshake.
You know it now?
Do you want me to show it to you?
Yeah.
It's a secret.
Camera, dude. Not on camera. What are you doing?
Do it under the table.
Yeah, maybe later. I'll show you later. Let's not do that.
All right, guys. I think that's it for another episode. Thanks for joining us, as always, and we'll see you again soon.